Hey professors, how you doing? My name is Professor Steve Austin. First, I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity to even be entered in this contest. Knowing you guys or even watching a video with my face on it is really cool. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity. So, let's get right into it, starting with number one, what motivated me to start doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Well, I was born with a handicapped disability called leg perthes. When I was at the age of 3, I had to have an operation, and then I was put into this kind of contraption called an A-frame brace. I'm going to show you a quick picture. This is me when I first got into it. As you can see, my knees are out to an A-frame. My legs are spread at a 90-degree angle. Um, they were stuck together from knee to knee with a bar, and I had to be in an A-frame, basically letting my hips stay in the place. Here's one more picture. So again, what it basically was, I'm not going to go into detail, it was hip disease that my hip deteriorated. I had to be in these braces for a few years in order for my hip to regrow and grow back into place right. So for the first few years of my life, I was very fragile, very handicapped. And as I started getting older and going to public school, I really started getting picked on for my disabilities and things that I had wrong with me. And I wasn't allowed to do any physical sports. I wasn't allowed to have any kind of sport that allowed full contact. But I was getting picked on. I was getting not only verbally picked on, but physically picked on. And that's when I started, convincing my mom as a teenager that I really need to know how to defend myself more than just the average person. So I started out with Taekwondo at the age of 14. I was in it for about 2 years before I had to go out for knee surgery, and then that kind of led into some, really rough, more teenage years down the road. Um, you know, I got into some really bad things as a teenager, but eventually I overcome them and we moved on. When I was in my 20s, I started back up again in Taekwondo, or I mean, I'm sorry, Kempo, and I was doing that for a few years, and my instructor, who was secretly training jiu-jitsu on the side, one day during a private lesson, I asked him, can we go over some Japanese or some jiu-jitsu, because we did some Japanese jiu-jitsu earlier that week. And he was like, okay, what kind of jiu-jitsu do you want to do, Japanese or Brazilian? Me not knowing, I said, well, what's Brazilian? And he said, he explained the concept, how it's a martial arts based on the ground. So I said, all right, let's check it out. He showed me a cross choke and Americana key lock. So okay. And then he's like, all right, we're going to wrestle. And we went, and he basically just submitted me and manhandled me. And I've never been manhandled, and it was kind of funny because I was almost making a song to all the taps, And I remember walking out that door, and I was just like, that really sucked. I wasn't hurt, but my ego was. And I walked out of there and I was just like, alright, I have one or two paths that I can choose. Path A, that sucked, I'm never doing that again. Or path B, that sucked, but how can I do that to somebody else? With my situation being fragile and already so, not weak, but so vulnerable in certain ways, I had more at risk, more to learn how to protect. I want to learn how to do that to someone. And then 10 years later, here I am today. Where in the number goes right into number two. Where and whom do I train with? My head professor is Professor Allison Jacal Brights. He is a 5th degree black belt under, if I'm not mistaken, your uncle Carlos Gracie Jr. I'm mistaken on your uncle. He's definitely under Carlos Gracie Jr. But when I looked up your family tree, I mean, it's so huge. I wanted to, don't, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I apologize. But I'm pretty sure it's your uncle. Anyway, I train with him. I try to get up there at least once or twice a month. I just got married recently, so I haven't been up there too often. It's been kind of rough with everything. But now that I'm back into the groove of things and the holidays are down, I can't wait to see him. I miss him very much. My main place of training is in Trevose. I own a school with my business partner Jim Wing. Him and I are both black belts under Professor Jacal. I've been training for about 10 years. I started in around 2003. This September will be 10 years. This past June, I just received and had the honor of receiving my black belt, which was probably my biggest achievement in life. It was a great feeling. I mean, you all know the feeling, so again, it was amazing. Um, I try to train about almost every day. I have a gi on, whether I'm teaching, doing my personal training, whether I'm getting ready for a competition, training a few days a week, cardio, things like that. Every day I pretty much have a gi on. Actually, I have to get all new ones because I beat them all up. So yeah, again, I try to train almost every single day, whether it's just an hour, 2 hours, teaching in the morning, teaching in the evening. I like to get it in. So number three, what would I say to people, or I'm sorry, how has BJJ changed my life? In every way. Growing up, I accepted my situation as a little kid, but when I got to teenage years, I was very, very angry with my life. I did not want to accept my life for what it was and the things that I had to do. One of the results from these surgeries that got botched up from this doctor was I have to be self-catheterized, and what that means is I have to insert a tube every time I have to go pee. So it was really difficult growing up with all these ailments, and then once the braces were off, I didn't look sick anymore, so it was really difficult for me to interact with normal kids and them to understand what I had to go through. And that's one of the reasons I got teased and picked on. And again, I wasn't accepting my situation, so I was very angry with life in general, and I just didn't care. And that led to my life slowly falling apart with other things around. Unfortunately, I got into drugs. I've been up and down, and I don't do anything, so it's great. It was BJJ gave my life a purpose, not just in general. I mean, my son was born a year before I started training jiu-jitsu, but when I found jiu-jitsu, I fell in love with it, and I knew that one day down the road, I really wanted to teach others this art. It was starting to slowly take over like a cancer in my life. My eating habits started changing. Your diet, your sleep regimen, your workout schedules. You start trying to really fuel your body as a machine so that it performs so much better on the mats every day, day after day, especially when you're on the mats multiple times. So in that way, it just slowly kind of took over, and I've seen it with people I've brought in and have been training for years. I see them slowly start becoming almost an adult. I had two friends who started under me, and I remember they were in their, one's my age, and his other brother's about 3 or 4 years younger. And I remember about a year after they started training, their dad was like, "What have you done to my kids?" He's like, they feel like they're grown up now, and you really see the evolution take over. I mean, with my basic patience, just how I break things down, my just the strategic thought of everyday practicing. Like what I have to do. Okay, I gotta run the grocery store. Okay, well, it's easier to go A, B, C, D, E than back home instead of over here, over here. So there's just little basic things that you really have to sit back and want and look at from a bigger picture. Your reflexes. I'm unfortunately a very clumsy man, and I'll pull something out of the cupboard, and by accident I drop something else, but I can catch it. And I do that with a few things, and sometimes you impress yourself, and it's always cool when somebody else kind of catches it to see it. But again, just basic reflexes, paying attention when you're leaving at night, when you're going out to your car, not just walking around, not paying attention, head in a purse, book bag, whatever it is for the average day person. But again, just the way I break things down, the way I accept things, the way I always try to figure out a solution to the problem at hand. If there's a problem, there's some way around it. We just need to figure it out. It may